It's running.
What's up guys, James here from BootWizard Boot Reviews, and today we are going to see if you can get good value for money Mercurials at an €80 price point. To do this, we are going to take a look at the Nike Mercurial Vapor 12 Academy. So this retails for €80, so if you're on a budget, you want a pair of Mercurials, maybe this is the boot for you. Let's jump into it and find out. So kicking off with the looks of the boot, this is in the new Mercurial Victory Pack. So this is the pack that Nike have released for the Women's World Cup. So with this being the Academy, there are obviously a few things that have changed. This pattern through the front of the boot here is not Flyknit, it is just an imprinted design that looks a little bit, a very little bit, like the Flyknit. And then you still do get that winged pattern that runs all the way through the base of the foot onto the sole plate and up the sides of the boot as well. I think it looks pretty cool. There is a full unboxing of this on the channel, so if you want a good look at what the Victory Pack Academy looks like, click the link above. Checking out the upper on this boot. So the upper on this is a synthetic, so no mesh or anything like that. It's a fairly standard synthetic, but it's a vapor, so a synthetic upper makes sense. It is similar to what you'll get from the Vapor and the Superfly Pro models, although it's not quite as nice. But I would argue that it is certainly a little bit softer out of the box compared to what you get from the Pro models, but it is certainly a lot thicker. It is a much thicker synthetic material. For a boot of €80, the touch on the ball in these isn't too shabby at all. It's certainly not going to be as thin, responsive, and barefoot as you'll get from those higher end models, but it is a lot better than the generation that it replaces, which had a very thick, very ugly feeling upper, very cheap feeling. This doesn't feel that cheap. It's not bad at all. So the boot uses a dual lace hole system, which is usually reserved for one-piece uppers, and that's because this has somewhat of a one-piece upper. So up the sides here in the tongue, it is all stitched together to give you a one-piece feeling, which does help the fit and the responsiveness and the lockdown. And then in the top of the boot, you have this winged tongue opening, which is something we've seen before on many Nike models, and that runs about halfway down the boot before it switches to that one-piece enclosure. On the whole, a reasonably thick synthetic, but not one that feels particularly cheap, gives you quite a nice touch on the ball and is quite soft out of the box, and actually gets a lot nicer the more that you wear it. For €80, I wouldn't really be complaining. It's not bad. So whether these are a takedown or not, they are still a Mercurial and they are still a vapor, so they still need to be lightweight. So let's find out what they weigh in at. 217 grams in my size, which is a size 8 UK, which is the EU 42.5. That, for an Academy level boot, is actually really good. I'm very impressed by that. I've had an idea, one second. Just thrown my Superfly Pros on the scale, and they weigh in at an identical weight. Now, fair enough, the Superfly has the extra Flyknit collar, so it weighs a little bit more. But the Superfly 6 Pro and the Vapor 12 Academy actually weigh basically the same amount. So on the whole, I'm pretty impressed by the weight of this Academy. I think that's really good. Okay, sole plate and stud pattern. So Mercurials are known for their aggressive traction. In the Academy model, how does it hold up? So on the Academy, you only get one choice of stud pattern for harder or firm ground, and it's this multi-ground stud pattern, which is really a combination, a mashup of the FG and the AG patterns. So for example, this is the AG pattern from the Nike Mercurial Superfly, so it would be the same on the Mercurial Vapor Pro. And you can see that it still retains that same conical stud shape in a lot of the positions. The heel area is exactly the same with the two bladed studs, but the MG has 3 chevron bladed studs instead of complete conical with 1 chevron bladed support stud. And yes, I need to clean my pros. The standard Nike FG pan is obviously all chevron bladed studs all the way through the boot and is super aggressive. But you will notice that you actually still get a split sole design with the Academy, which is something that, for example, Adidas have not done with the new Nemesis line. They've kind of got fake split soles with a different color in the middle, but that threw me off. But something it does not have is the anatomic sole plate system, which is something that I have raved about, I think is so good in the current lineup of Mercurials and Superflies. It's a system that allows you to sit down into the boot a little bit more. The sole plate is shaped more to your foot specifically, and it gives you more responsiveness. This is a much flatter sole plate and it feels it. It does not give you that same locked in responsive feeling that you get from the higher end models. But again, it's €80. You can't have everything. The sole plate itself, aside from just not being anatomically shaped, isn't too bad. It's fairly stiff through the midfoot with a decent amount of flex in the forefoot. Sometimes you find with these lower end models that the sole plate is super stiff and horrible. I don't really have any complaints about this. I think it's not bad at all. In terms of actual performance, this isn't bad. I really like the Nike AG stud pan. I think it's fantastic. This takes that element and makes it a little bit more aggressive. So there's really nothing to complain about the stud shape and the stud pattern. I think it does a very good job. And if you are looking to buy boots at about €80, then only having to buy 1 pair of boots that will cover both the firm ground and the artificial ground is a really good thing. You only need 1 pair of boots here. So on the whole, I think it's a thumbs up for the MG. If you do want the super aggressive FG stud pattern, you can't get it in the Academy model. You have to go up and you have to get that from either the Pro or the Elite tiers. But this is a decent option. Okay, let's talk value for money. Something that is really important in a boot that's being marketed at this price point, purely because if you're buying at this price point, you are looking to save money. So, firstly, its competition. Its main competition comes in its own line, the Mercurial Superfly 6 Academy. The Superfly 6 Academy with the collar is €15 more expensive for what is fundamentally the same boot. So this is way better value for money than that. If you compare it to the Adidas X line models at this point, the X18.3 for example, this I think is better. I don't think Adidas do a very good job of their takedown models, although the Nemesis ones are a little better than recent times. But overall, is the Vapor 12 Academy good value for money? I have 2 trains of thought on this. The first one being that if you have €80 to spend on a pair of Vapors, you should probably be looking to try and get the Pro tier models at a discounted price. So try and go out, find a sale, find an old colorway, something like that, and try and get the Pro tier models because they're just better boots in my opinion. You get the anatomic sole plate and the upper is much nicer just for starters. So I would certainly be looking at that. Secondly, normal piece of advice, just go out and get the Academies at a lower price point on sale. So you can pick the Academies up for around 50 to 60 euros if you get them really discounted, if you get them in an old color. So definitely go out and do that. I don't think it's a bad boot. I don't think it's something you should avoid buying, but definitely don't pay full price for it. If you're paying full price, get a Pro. If you want to save the money, get them even cheaper.
You're welcome! Wait, what now?
Okay, so the fit and comfort, the inside of the boot. So the heel area here has a synthetic leather liner, which is fairly good. It doesn't do much to stop your foot slipping, but the lockdown in the boot isn't bad overall. And then that has quite a nice amount of padding that runs through the back as well. And then the rest of the boot through the inside of the liner, which you probably can't see very well, has a very soft liner that runs all the way down the inside of the boot. The actual insole itself is glued in place, and it's a reasonable insole for the price point. I'm not really complaining about it, but it's not really much to talk about either. So on feet, I think these look pretty good, and in general, they are quite comfortable. I have no issues with the comfort in these at all. The lockdown is pretty good, especially through the midfoot. The heel lockdown could be a little better, particularly with that liner and the extra padding. I'm not 100% with it, but it's not bad. Size-wise, I've gone with my regular size, which is an EU 42.5, UK 8 in Nike. Now, with that, that's worked out quite well for me, but I probably could have got away with going down half a size, especially in the length. It's not something I've tried, but definitely worth considering. I feel like I maybe have a tiny bit of extra length in the toe box area that I don't really want. These do run slightly wider than the boots in the Pro or the Elite range, but not by much, so don't bank on getting any extra space in these if you do have a wide foot. Overall, a fairly comfortable boot with a decent amount of lockdown, especially through the midfoot area, and my only concern would be in the heel area, possibly not having quite enough lockdown and maybe getting a little bit of rubbing. I would be concerned about getting some blisters in that heel area. Overall, not much to complain about and not a bad boot on feet. If anyone's been wondering why I've been slowly turning a shade of beetroot red through this video, it's because I've had to close all the windows and turn all the fans off, because otherwise you guys can't hear me, and by Scandinavian standards, it is absolutely roasting outside. But back to the boots. So I have been pleasantly surprised by these. The Vapor 12 Academy is not a bad boot at all, and anyone who goes out and picks them up, I don't think will be disappointed. One little caveat though is that if you are in that €80 price bracket, I would certainly be searching out some Pros on sale in an old colorway. It is just a better boot than this, even though this I can still recommend. So do remember to subscribe, check out some of my other videos which I will link here-ish, and do remember to like this one if you did enjoy it, and if you want to see me do some more takedown model reviews in the future. But that's everything from BootWizard today. I hope you've had a good one. We'll see you soon.